Okay, let's just jump right into this explainer. If you follow Classroom of the Elite, you already know Kiyotaka Ayanokoji is an absolute enigma. I mean, look at that persistent, stoic face we've got up on screen. It literally never changes. He's hyper-intelligent, completely unfazed by danger, and famously treats everyone around him like mere pawns. But today, we're putting him under the microscope. We're going to take a documentary-style, clinical look at the traumatized teenager hiding beneath that emotionless facade. And trust me, the picture is about to change dramatically.
People are nothing but tools to me. I don't care what I have to do to win. In the end, I'm going to win, right? That chilling quote basically built his entire myth in the fandom as this edgy, detached god of manipulation. But here's the thing. If we dig into the source material, this isn't some ultimate mastermind flex. No, it's actually a deeply ingrained defense mechanism. To Ayanokoji, losing isn't just dropping a game. In his hyper-conditioned mind, failure is fundamentally equated with death and total erasure.
So, to really understand what's going on in his head, we've structured this explainer as a forensic psychological dossier. We'll be covering the perfect human myth, the trauma of the White Room, asking if he's a sociopath or a survivalist, unpacking him as an unreliable narrator, and finally, looking at the logic of self-sabotage.
All right, starting off with Part 1, the perfect human myth, or the facade of the Machiavellian genius. We have to start with how he presents himself to the world, the ultimate, calculating puppet master of the advanced nurturing high school. Outwardly, he just seems like this ordinary, kind of lazy guy going with the flow. But behind the scenes, he is pulling literally every single string.
And nothing illustrates that terrifying control better than this number right here, 50. He scored exactly 50 out of 100 on every single entrance exam subject, just so he could blend in as perfectly average. I mean, think about the sheer level of genius required to pull that off. The school intentionally threw in university-level questions, and he didn't just solve them, he perfectly calculated exactly which ones to answer and which to intentionally bomb just to get a dead center median score. It is an act of supreme, calculated invisibility.
Because of this, he exhibits some incredibly dark behaviors. He manipulates his classmates and even engineers horrific psychological abuse to secure loyal tools, which honestly leads a lot of people to just label him a monster. Take how he treated Ki Karazawa. He essentially orchestrated a Milgram-style psychological shock experiment on her. He enabled her bullies to torture her just so he could break her down, swoop in as the savior, and lock in her absolute loyalty. He perfectly imitates human interaction and seduction, but he feels absolutely none of it. It's a genuinely terrifying presentation.
Which brings us to Part 2, Trauma of the White Room and the Forging of Absolute Autonomy. To understand the root cause of these actions, we really have to pull back the curtain on the hyper-controlled institutional experiment designed by his father. If we want to know why Ayanokoji acts like a machine, we've got to look at the factory that built him.
Tracking his escalating trauma on this timeline, you can see how his entire life, right from birth, was treated as a mere transaction. He was born to Atsumi Ayanokoji, a ruthless politician, and a mother who literally just viewed his birth as financial leverage. By age 8, he's processing information that would overwhelm most adults, but they intentionally subjected him to unpredictable tasks where he would constantly fail. By 9, the last kid in his cohort drops out. This leaves Kiyotaka in total social isolation. His only interactions? Fighting adult martial artists or eating. And when a butler named Matsuo finally helped him escape, his father systematically ruined Matsuo's life, driving the man to self-immolation. It's the terrifying realization that close association with him only leads to destruction.
And that introduces this crucial concept, learned helplessness. The White Room weaponized this condition, but they didn't do it to build intelligence. They did it to systematically destroy his sense of identity and replace the concept of I with pure mechanical adaptation. Most kids in the White Room completely broke down. They developed massive inferiority complexes or went insane because, well, humans need validation. But Kiyotaka, he just stopped protecting his pride. He adapted. He suppressed his emotions so incredibly deep that his fundamental humanity was essentially erased in favor of pure optimization.
So, Part 3, Sociopath or Survivalist, Diagnosing the Empty Vessel. The big question we have to ask here is, does all this intense conditioning make him a clinical sociopath, like the fandom so often suggests?
It's so easy to look at his actions, see the total lack of empathy, and just stamp antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD, on his file. But clinically speaking, that's wildly inaccurate.
As you can see, he completely lacks the antisocial lifestyle and impulsivity required for an ASPD diagnosis. According to the Hare Psychopathy Checklist, true sociopaths have a history of juvenile delinquency, they're reckless, and they seek out thrills. Ayanokoji is the exact opposite. He is hyper-controlled, he actually respects school rules when it suits him, and his violence is purely a response to threats. He really just wants to be left alone to live a peaceful life.
So instead of being biologically remorseless, he uses these highly sophisticated defense mechanisms just to survive, completely compartmentalizing his vulnerable self from his logical ego. For example, during physical combat against multiple adults, his heart rate literally does not change. That's a physiological dissociation born from trauma, a totally fearless biology. Or when he feels a sudden urge to protect someone, his brain immediately intellectualizes it, rationalizing that, oh, he's just protecting a useful tool. He physically cannot process the fact that he actually cares.
Which leads perfectly into part 4, an unreliable narrator, the deception within his own mind. If we look at his internal monologues, we discover pretty quickly that Ayanokoji is actively deceiving both us, the audience, and himself.
See, because we get to read or hear his internal thoughts, we just assume we're getting the objective truth, but we aren't. He suffers from a profound inability to process feelings. His conscious brain instantly intercepts any emotional attachment and forcibly categorizes it as a cold, tactical maneuver. Think about when the threat of his father expelling him was temporarily lifted. Mathematically, he had absolutely zero reason to protect Ki or his classmates anymore. The strategic necessity was totally gone, yet he still went out of his way to save them. His conscious mind is telling us, I'm just maintaining my tools, but his subconscious actions scream, I don't want to lose these people.
This quote right here really captures his psychological prison. The tragedy of Kiyotaka Ayanokoji is not that he cannot feel. It is that when he finally does, he chooses not to reach for it. His trauma froze him in time. He's utterly terrified of the unpredictable pain of genuine human vulnerability. Kind of like a soldier returning from war who can't leave the battlefield behind. He is carrying the White Room with him everywhere he goes. He wants to know what love is. He wants to know what it feels like to just be a normal teenager. But the second those raw, unpredictable emotions surface, his trauma violently snaps him right back into that hyper-analytical shell.
Now for our final part, part 5, the logic of self-sabotage, engineering his own emotional collapse. This brings us to the ultimate paradox of his character, which is his subconscious drive to finally shatter his own impenetrable defenses.
He realizes that as long as he remains the invincible mastermind, he'll never truly change. He is obsessed with proving his father's deterministic White Room methods wrong, and to do that, well, the masterpiece must be defeated by ordinary, emotional people. His father believes that extreme mechanical nurture will always conquer natural talent. If Kiyotaka wins every single battle, he's literally just proving his abuser right, He proves the White Room works. So his grand rebellion isn't to conquer the world, it's to cultivate an environment that can actually defeat him.
He's deliberately engineering a controlled environment where he can safely experience loss and rejection, attempting to learn human emotion without risking his ego. He's building up Suzune Horikita and her classmates, essentially arming his own executioners, but here is where his flawless logic finally breaks down. He actually thinks he can control the experience of loss. He thinks he can force Horikita to hate him, lose to her, and then just analytically observe his own sadness like a scientist looking at a petri dish. But as we all know, emotions just don't work like that. But as his self-inflicted collapse approaches, we really have to ask this final question. Will escaping his invisible White Room finally make him human, or will it permanently break him? Think about it. If he strips away the genius, the manipulation, and all those heavy defense mechanisms, he's stepping into entirely unknown territory. He is running straight toward a psychological breaking point, and honestly, that is what makes his character so endlessly fascinating. So what do you think? Can the masterpiece truly be unmade? Let that simmer for a bit. Thanks for exploring this explainer with us, and until next time, keep analyzing.